Hello, my name is Emory Hill, and I will be presenting my lab on spring motion. So to start, the purpose of the experiment was to learn about and replicate the motion of a spring mass system oscillating. A real-world model and a computational model were created to do this. So at play here, we have Newton's laws of motion, especially that second law of motion, F equals ma, which is where all of those forces are going to derive from. We also have the position update, velocity update, which derive from the kinematics, and then the potential energy, kinetic energy, and spring force formulas, which are very important for the actual calculations behind everything in the lab and in the code. Two softwares were used. We have Tracker and GlowScript. Tracker is where the video was uploaded to get data from it, and GlowScript was where I coded everything and it also generates the models themselves. Now for a preview of the main results, on the left you have the X position versus time graph, and on the right the Y position versus time graph. As you can see, the X position versus time is more accurate between the model and experimental lines, and then the other one is not so much. Now this can be explained through physics, and we're going to get into that. So for the system, surroundings, and initial conditions, our system is the spring and the mass, and then the surroundings is the air, the wall, everything else that could have interacted with it. And for our initial conditions, we have the time there, the mass, initial position, initial velocity, spring constant, and the length of the spring unstretched. Now for the procedure, the video was uploaded to Tracker and data was taken from this. And then initial values like the unstretched length and initial velocity were calculated. Energy, position, update, velocity formulas, all of the formulas were uploaded or calculated into GlowScript as well. And then the data from Tracker was put into a CSV file and then inputted into the code to generate the models. Now for the coding in GlowScript, I have it all labeled over there. So yellow is any calculations with energy, red is any calculations with updates of position, velocity, or length, any updates. And then green is our initial conditions, and pink are all of the constants. So if you want to take a closer look, just pause the video and look over there on the right. For the overall results, that top left picture, that's the model itself, the overall model, which simulates the real world one. The top right is the energy versus time, and it's important to note, as you can see there, when the kinetic energy is at its highest, the potential energy is at its lowest. That is where the energy principle comes into play. And then we have the X position and Y position versus time graphs, as I mentioned. The main thing to note there is that the periods line up correctly, so it's not an issue with the period in that Y position versus time graph. It's likely just the initial velocity that caused the values to be separate from each other. For our analysis and conclusion, as you can see there, the X position graph was very accurate. The Y position graph was a little less accurate. And then the model and energy graphs were both very accurate, as you can see. And then we have some similarities. The periods lined up for all of them, and all three graphs validated the energy principle. And then for some differences, like I said, the depth of values on the Y position did not quite line up, and there was minor differences in the real and predicted models of all of them due to things like energy loss from the surroundings. For some final questions, energy principle is satisfied, as you can see, as potential goes up, kinetic goes down, vice versa, and the small amounts of energy that were lost, that's just because of the surroundings, because this is the real world. So for some period estimates, I calculated periods for X and Y, and these are not quite the same because the X is not at its max at the same time as the Y. So they will result in different periods. That is just how the motion of a spring is. And we always have potential sources of error. There could have been miscalculations with initial values, which could affect the whole motion of everything else. But I do not think that's a problem in this one specifically. There could have been tracking errors with the center of mass, but again, I think it was pretty accurately tracked in this lab. Thank you for watching.